Good day and welcome to Frontline News. I'm Abigail Smythe. Coming up in the newscast, JPS workers expected to return to work following two-day sick-out. Justice Minister announces significant reduction in the disposal rates of court cases. Possible economic fallout for Jamaica due to climate changes. 1 out of every 21 Jamaican women will get breast cancer. Only 10% have done tests to know their status. And sugar is not the real problem for diabetics. The real problem is fat. And the Health Ministry administering HPV vaccine to more girls. In business, concession agreement to be signed for the operations of the Norman Manley International Airport. In the region, Trinidad Oil Workers Trade Union hails the court's decision as a victory for the workers who stand to lose their jobs at Petrochin, and further overseas, U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Nikki Haley resigns. Now for the news in detail. Jamaica Public Service JPS employees are expected to return to work based on an agreement reached at the Ministry of Labour Tuesday afternoon. Normalcy is expected starting with the 8 p.m. shift. The Union of Clerical, Administrative and Supervisory Employees UCASE and the JPS have agreed to meet at the local level to have further discussions on several areas of concern. These include the electricity discount to pensioners, the wage claim submitted for 2018-2019, and the performance-based incentive program proposed by the company. More than 200 employees represented by UCASE started calling in sick Sunday night. A follow-up meeting is scheduled for next week at the Ministry of Labour. There has been a significant reduction in the disposal rates of cases in our courts. This was stated by the Minister of Justice, Delroy Chuck, who made the announcement in the House of Representatives on Tuesday. More in this report from Jenny Williams.
Leading the way are the Corporate Criminal Court and the Westmoreland Parish Court, with disposal rates of 63% reductions. The Minister of Justice noted, however, that too many Jamaicans are resorting to violence to settle matters.
The three most frequent criminal charges filed in the parish courts over the period on the report were assault occasioning actual bodily harm, unlawful wounding, and threats. Moreover, Mr. Speaker, our males within a certain age group are the main offenders. 82% of the matters in the courts were committed by males, with the dominant age group of offenders being young men between 20 and 26, and also in the 27 to 36 age group. Mr. Speaker, we have been getting more guilty pleas, and this frees up the court's resources. The statistics have shown that the largest proportion of matters completed in the first 6 months was by way of guilty pleas. This is encouraging, Mr. Speaker. 62.2% of matters being completed were by way of guilty pleas.
While some motorists might be taking advantage of the current situation, he sent out a warning.
Many of these warrants have not been issued, largely because of the vast amount of time consumed in preparing these warrants. But more significantly, Mr. Speaker, there has been historically been a gap in the information systems between the tax office and the courts. The court is unable to confirm whether the traffic courts were paid at the traffic tickets were paid at the tax office, and so there tends to be a reluctance to proceed with the warrants. This gap, Mr. Speaker, enables persons to accumulate a large number of traffic tickets without sanctions being imposed. The four entities, Mr. Speaker, involved, the courts, the tax office, the Jamaica Constabulary Force, and the Island Traffic Authority, fall under four different ministries. And so greater collaboration is necessary to bridge this gap and streamline the process.
Opposition spokesman Mark Golding stated that this has been a perennial problem. He was hopeful that the new road traffic system will help to alleviate this problem.
With the lack of a consistent and cohesive system for dealing with these issues, there is impunity, or a sense of impunity, among some drivers who feel that they can game the system, so to speak. And we know that we hear these reports of accidents being caused by drivers who have multiple outstanding tickets and so on. hopefully the Road Traffic Act should go some way towards addressing some of those issues, but that won't fix this problem of information being in the system and retrievable on a timely basis.
He noted that the reports of backlog in cases is often exaggerated in the media and challenged them to get it right.
Most up-to-date estimated backlog of criminal cases in the parish courts is 29,724 cases. The media has consistently inaccurately reported the level of backlog in the courts. We hear numbers of over 400,000 cases, and this is going back for years. They've been saying this over and over again, despite repeatedly reports coming to Parliament showing that that is not the case. 90% of criminal cases go into the parish courts. So if the backlog in the parish courts is 29,742 cases, the backlog in the Supreme Court level, whether it be the gun court or the circuit courts, is going to be significantly less than that. So it is time for the newspapers and others that show an interest in the justice sector to update their the number that they use when they talk about backlog, because it isn't helpful for a totally wrong and exaggerated number to be constantly repeated.
Janae Williams, Frontline News.
A female customs officer has been charged for violations in relation to the current state of emergency in the corporate area. Reports are that around 9 o'clock Monday night, Latoya Francis was stopped during a routine check in the vicinity of Industrial Terrace in West Kingston. She reportedly refused to comply with the command of the security forces on duty at the checkpoint. Reports are that when asked for a search, she placed her car key in her bosom and later in her underwear. This led to a female JDF soldier being requested to undertake the search. Ms. Francis eventually relented to the commands of the security requests, but was later slapped with several charges. These include disobeying the commands of an officer and assault at common law. She is booked to appear in court on October 24. And one person employed to the Jamaica Public Service Company JPS was among 4 persons arrested Sunday night in connection with the theft of fuel from the entity's Hunts Bay power station in Kingston. Johnny Williams tells us more.
An investigation is underway to identify other persons who may have been involved in the fuel theft. The power company says that arrests came amidst weeks of surveillance by its security department, which involved the police.
JPS, along with the police, recognized that there was a problem with the fuel that was stored at our Hunts Bay power station for use in the generation of electricity. Over a period of months, we recognized that fuel was being removed, and based on a number of monitoring initiatives that were put in place, we were able to arrest a number of persons on Sunday night.
The persons who were arrested are scheduled to appear in court this week. And in response, the JPS says it has intensified efforts to clamp down on illegal activities targeting its operations. It also indicates a zero-tolerance approach to internal corruption.
The company has been increasing security at our facilities across the island. And yes, we have been monitoring and cracking down on illegal activity perpetrated internally by JPS contractors, employees, as well as by persons on the outside. And we have asked members of the public and our customers to continue to report any indication of illegal activity that they see in their communities. And we have been getting some assistance in this regard. We had a situation in St. Catherine recently with the theft and vandalism of transformers, and we've had cases with the removal of street lamps.
Janae Williams, Frontline News.
The Jamaica Defense Force soldier, Private Garfield Brown, who was arrested and charged with illegal possession of a firearm, is to face several other charges. The firearm he was found with was tested and has been linked to the murder of the driver of a Probox motor car, which was found with his co-accused. It was also linked to 2 other murders in the parish as well as other shootings. The soldier had his case put off when he appeared before the court last Thursday and is expected to face the court again October 31. The 16-year-old son of imprisoned gang leader Joel Andem was scheduled to make another appearance before the gun court on Tuesday. He was remanded on October 4. During the proceedings, his attorney Peter Champagny gave notice that he will apply for bail. The teenager was arrested on September 24 after the police reportedly held him with an AK-47 rifle loaded with 27 rounds during a special operation in Lantley's Papine, St. Andrew. The teenager was sentenced to 3 years probation before the gun court in 2016 after he pleaded guilty to possession of an illegal firearm which was found in his knapsack at his school. While most people associate sugar consumption with diabetes, the intake of fat is regarded as even more critical. That's the considered position of President of the Diabetes Association of Jamaica, Professor Errol Morrison. Corden Barrett has more.
Sugar is not the real problem for diabetics. The real problem is fat. That's a takeaway from JNN's Power Talk Live program on Tuesday, where the professor stated his reason.
Remember, for every gram, every unit of fat, it's 2.25 times more than what glucose, a unit of glucose gives you.
Mm-hmm. Really?
Yes. So fat is much worse.
Much worse.
Much worse. And you see, you get a lot of it in these fried foods, these fast foods that we're getting. Yeah. And I won't take you into the other aspect that there are certain types that will probably go on to be related more to heart disease and so on, but that is another story. But the point we're making here is these fats now contribute these free radicals. I think we need to go back. That's a real cutting edge information in them. And until you say you want us to do more research, to really get to the bottom of this, apart from just observation-wise, we need to get down to see how the molecules are working, that is inside the body. And until we get to nanometric, this is with a billionth of a meter now, where you can literally see the molecules sitting on the membranes and attacking it. Until we begin to use that kind of technology, we will be still at sea.
Moderation is the recommended approach towards what you consume.
You will find that if we are able to get an understanding that, look, here is starch, here is protein, here is vegetables. These are the big 3. Just balance it. And don't have a belly full on time, as we say. You need to spread it out. Because, in again, simple terms, if you take a whole big plate, like portions we're dealing with now, then it overwhelms the system in a sense. And then you may get a dumping, a relatively rapid rise of, fats and sugars and protein breakdown products and so on in your body. Right. What we're saying is take a smaller amount so the release is slow. Right? And then you may have it a little more often during the day. Okay. That's the point. Now, I said, so in terms of the foods, you don't need to worry. You see all the sugar in foods? Don't worry about that. Because the sugar in foods is attached to proteins and fibers. So it is difficult to dislodge, so to speak, for it to get into the blood. So we don't worry too much about the embedded sugars in your foods. It's the added sugars that you're getting from these, sweets and so on, that you really want to.
But meanwhile, moderation is good advice. Professor Morrison has expressed caution in relation to the evening meal.
If you have, as is the custom, a guy comes home in the evening and he's looking for his big dinner, and his rice and his potato and his yam and his bread for his dumpling and so on. Now, what we say to him, look, within a couple of hours or less, you're going to bed. You have not had a chance to work off, use up some of this energy that has been taken in with this food. Therefore, if you go to bed with that kind of belly full, so to speak, your sugars are going to rise during the night. And the fact that you can't use them, right, it will be deposited as fat.
Probably around your waistline.
So The point we're making then is small amounts, more frequently during the day, and that evening meal before you go to bed. And you have to be careful, you can't say just the evening meal because the night watchman. You have to be careful how you handle that.
Yes.
But the point is, before you go to bed, that meal should not be a starchy one. And I try to emphasize now the use of vegetable, salad dish, and so on, minimal sums, and use that as that evening meal.
Codian Barrett, Frontline News.
1 out of every 21 Jamaican women will get breast cancer in her lifetime. Yet, only 10% of the population have done tests to determine their status. Codian Barrett tells us more.
That is the striking statistic outlined during JNN's Power Talk on Tuesday by consultant radiologist Dr. Daria Cornwall. She pointed to the need for women to do an annual mammogram, the gold standard used to detect breast cancer, once she has reached the age of 40.
There is lots of controversy about whether it should be yearly, every 2 years, every 3 years, whatever it is. But we know that anecdotally that we are predominantly a black population.
Yes.
And blacks tends to get more aggressive cancers at an earlier age. So we can't sit and look at the statistics of the white Caucasian-based countries where most of the research has been based on.
Yes, that's correct.
Most of the research about breast cancer incidence and prevalence and the genetic and all the makeup is based on the white population, Caucasian population.
Yes.
Our black population, there's less research on, and we even need more research on our local scenario. But I don't know if a black person in Jamaica is different from a black person in the other countries. We see in the other countries where research is done that the blacks have more aggressive cancers at an earlier age.
Pointing to the wisdom in early detection, she noted it goes for all women from all walks of life. Then came her plea.
I implore each woman, every single woman, once you've reached the age of 40 and you got breasts, regardless of the size of the cup, whether it's a trainee cup size or whichever size, get them tested. Turn in the breasts.
Breast cancer, yeah.
Get them checked. We are not telling you to check them because cancer is there. We are telling you to check them because you are getting older and you are a woman, which puts you at increased risk, even if you just come from sugar and pressure family.
Yes.
This is regular women, so get them checked.
Codian Barrett, Frontline News.
The Health Ministry is now administering the human papillomavirus HPV vaccine to a second cohort of grade 7 girls. This is a proactive measure by the government to protect them against cervical cancer. Kimberly Broderick has those details.
Chief Medical Officer in the Ministry of Health, Dr. Jacqueline Bisesa Mackenzie, says the initial target for the program is 22,000 girls aged 9 to 14. The vaccine is being administered free of cost and is not mandatory. Dr. Bisesa Mackenzie says the ministry began providing the vaccine during school medicals for the new academic year.
We have actually started before the school term started. With the school medicals, we went into the schools, sensitized the parents and teachers, so we had a running start before the program actually started in schools, and it's actually in October that we have actually gone out into some of the schools, and some of them already.
She notes that this time around, persons are more aware of the HPV program and its benefits.
We are still going to have some persons who will choose not to, but our aim is to encourage persons to inform as much as possible so that persons can make their decision on an informed basis.
Cervical cancer is the second leading cause of cancer-related mortality in Jamaica and remains a significant public health concern. Current estimates indicate that every year, 392 women in Jamaica are diagnosed with cervical cancer. 185 die from the disease, with the majority of deaths occurring in women between 40 and 64 years of age. The Health Ministry started administering the HPV vaccine to grade 7 girls in October last year. Kimberly Broderick, Frontline News.
Warning has come about the possible economic fallout for Jamaica due to changes in the climate, as outlined in the latest United Nations report on the issue. Sasha Lee Hamilton gives the details.
Director of the Climate Studies Group and Dean in the Faculty of Science and Technology at the UWI Mona, Professor Michael Taylor, shared worrying information on the implications for oil exploration and energy use. In its 200-page report, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change warned that the world has only 12 years to make massive changes to limit global warming to moderate levels, or there would be catastrophic consequences. This requires radical changes in transportation, energy use, and building infrastructure, in addition to reducing current coal consumption by 1/3. But with oil exploration being an emerging activity for Jamaica, and with fossil fuel also holding potential economic benefits, there could be a fallout if conditions are not improved globally. Professor Taylor is recommending that special planning be done to avoid economic losses in the future.
I think it has to give everybody all over the world, pause, because if we are going to actually achieve 1.5 degrees, then it's going to be a collective global effort. It's not going to rest on only the largest emitters or only the developed. Everybody's really going to have to play a significant role, which includes us in Jamaica. So as we now plan for the future, we must plan for the future, bearing in mind this goal of 1.5 degrees by the end of the century. And so our oil exploration, what we premise energy on has to be something that we think about seriously.
The report also highlights the potential harm for agriculture and related industries, in addition to the risk of more intense natural disasters. He indicates that small countries, such as Jamaica, remain extremely vulnerable in this regard, so the issue of rising temperatures is troubling.
Caribbean is singled out particularly for water stress in this report. A 25% drier region, I think, between 1.5 and 2 degrees. It lays out some of the significant threats at 1.5 degrees and worse at 2 degrees. And some of these are the sea level rise threats, the more intense hurricanes that we're already beginning to see, the challenges for water, the challenges for livelihoods that are linked to agriculture and to the coast, the challenges for natural resources, coral reefs. This report really spells out that 1.5 is not a safe place, though it's probably the better option between 1.5 and 2.
He was speaking on RGR's Beyond the Headlines on Monday. Sasha-Lee Hamilton, Frontline News.
And today, October 9, marks some notable events in our history. Here are a few of those events. In 1961, the Jamaica Tourist Board announces that it will spend $170,000 on newspaper and magazine advertising in North America this year. This is out of a total budget of $1 million. In 1962, a 12-man medical advisor committee is set up by the Minister of Health, the Honorable Dr. Herbert Eldemeyer. This committee will make recommendations for improvements in the regulations governing hospitals and ancillary services, as well as improvements to the Kingston Public Hospital. In 1968, the Prime Minister, the Honorable Hugh Shearer, announces that construction will begin shortly on a £2 million paper factory to be known as West Indies Pulp and Paper Limited. This factory will be located in Clarendon between Freetown and the Cockpit District. In 1972, Dr. Jimmy Borras comments that some 10,000 illegal abortions are performed in Jamaica each year, with approximately 10 deaths resulting, and warns that if abortion isn't legalized, then Jamaica would be unable to carefully curtail the population and thereby solve the problem of crime and poverty. And in 1983, the National Water Commission, NWC, which is responsible for providing water island-wide, is in a critical financial position. The NWC now owes $44 million to its creditors and contractors. Over the next 3 years, it is expected to reach $123 million. And those are some of the significant events of October 9. And we now take a break. We'll have Frontline Business when we return.
Violence against women and girls is a human problem, not just a woman's problem. It's a problem for men too. Gender violence takes many forms, including sexual assault, domestic violence, relationship abuse, sexual harassment, and sexual abuse of children. The magnitude of ongoing violence against women and children in our country is cause for alarm. We can end the violence. It requires all of us to end the violence. I call on all our men and women in Jamaica to take a stand. And men, especially, must get involved in this movement to create a better world for their daughters, their mothers, their sisters, their aunts, their uncles, their fathers, their sons, and for themselves. Let's protect and reassure. Let's unite to end gender violence.
For a clearer understanding of the issues of the day, the cause and effect, join GNN's Insight on Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Insight, a deeper look at the story behind the story. Insight, your reality check on what matters most. That's Wednesdays at 10 a.m. on GNN for your insight. GNN, news worth watching.
Turn your radio on. Tune in to the real Jamaican radio, RJR 94 FM, pioneer of the airwaves, channeling real Jamaican experiences through a dedicated team of authentic broadcasters. RJR, your tried and true family station with inclusive and interactive time programming, credible reporting of local and international news and sports, reaching you every day in every way, on air and online. RJR remains your reason for radio, serving Jamaica with innovation and information. RJR, the Big 94, passion, people, personalities.
Welcome to Frontline Business. I'm Codian Barrett. In business news today, a concession agreement is to be signed on Wednesday for the operations of the Norman Manley International Airport. It will be signed between the government and the Mexican firm Grupo Aeroportuario del Pacifico GAP, which was selected last month by the Development Bank of Jamaica to manage the airport under a public-private partnership. The Mexican firm already has 74.5% control of the Sangster International Airport through consortium NBJ Airports in partnership with Vantage Group of Canada. During the concession period, GAP will be responsible for operating and improving the efficiency of both landside and airside operations. It will also finance and complete the planned modernization and expansion, as well as maintain and upgrade the airport's facilities. National Commercial Bank (NCB) is partnering with On-Time Taxi Service to increase the safety of passengers by allowing them to pay fares using NCB Quisk. On-time passengers will be able to pay drivers using their cell phones, with a text message notification being sent to the drivers when the transaction is complete. Drivers will also be able to pay administrative and service fees to On-Time using NCB Quisk Bill Pay feature. Panjam Investment has acquired a 25% minority stake in Williams Offices. Williams Offices is the Caribbean franchise partner for Regus, a global workspace provider. Chief Operating Officer of Panjam, Paul Hanworth, says the investment represents the firm's confidence in the region's future. Just 2 weeks ago, Panjam also acquired a 6% stake in another regional entity, JMMB Group. On the foreign exchange market, the US dollar on average is being sold for $133.34. The Canadian is going for $103.12, the pound sterling for $174.41, and the euro for $154.15. In Tuesday's trading session, the JSE Combined Index advanced by 151 points to close at over 300,000. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 62 stocks, of which 27 advanced, 29 declined, and 6 traded firm. The junior market index declined by 21 points to close at 3,403. Stocks advancing were Berger Paints, Blue Power Group, CAC 2000, Caribbean Producers, and Siboney Group. Stocks declining were 1834 Investments, Caribbean Cement, Caribbean Cream, Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances, and Carreras Limited. Trading firm were AMG Packaging and Paper, Jamaica Stock Exchange, Jetcon Corporation, KLE Group, and Paramount Trading. Kingston Wharves Limited was the volume leader with over 5 million units, followed by Siboney Group Limited with over 1 million units, and SSL Venture Capital Jamaica Limited with over 700,000 units. And in news in oil prices edged higher on Tuesday on growing evidence of falling Iranian crude exports before the imposition of new U.S. sanctions, as well as partial production shutdown in the Gulf of Mexico because of Hurricane Michael. Brent crude futures rose 81 cents to $84.72 a barrel. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures gained 49 cents to $74.78 a barrel. And that's it for Frontline Business. I'm Cody Barrett. Pleasant viewing.
Hi, I'm Emily Shields. And Hotline is going to look even hotter on JNN. Welcome to Hotline Interface. And today we have with us...
That's RJR's 94 Hotline on JNN. Every Thursday at 10:10 a.m. It's more than talk. It's substance. Keep up with the business of the day every third Wednesday at 6 p.m. on JNN as we trade views with the movers and shakers of business in Jamaica on The Exchange, Financial Gleaner, and JNN Business Forum. Riveting discussions, engaging business moguls, and disruptive ideas. That's The Exchange, Financial Gleaner, and JNN Business Forum every third Wednesday at 6 p.m. And remember to catch the rebroadcast at 4 p.m. on Sundays.
Turn your radio on. Tune in to the Real Jamaican Radio, RJR 94 FM, pioneer of the airwaves, channeling real Jamaican experiences through a dedicated team of authentic broadcasters. RJR, your tried and true family station with inclusive and interactive daytime programming, credible reporting of local and international news and sports, reaching you every day in every way, on air and online. RJR remains your reason for radio, serving Jamaica with innovation and information. RJR, the Big 94, passion, people.
Welcome back to Frontline News. Now on to regional stories. The Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, CDEMA, is reporting improvements in how Haiti handles disasters. This following the devastation caused by Saturday's magnitude 5.9 earthquake. CDEMA's Executive Director, Ronald Jackson, has noted major improvements since the last major earthquake in Haiti in 2010. Saturday's earthquake has reportedly caused the death of 15 persons and the injury of over 300. Additionally, there has been moderate infrastructure damage and cleanup efforts are now being coordinated. Mr. Jackson states that there have been upgrades in the flow of information from Haitian authorities and growth in their capacity to respond to disasters.
They've done some changes internal in terms of their version of the ODPM, and they've had the opportunity to demonstrate this growing capacity following the Matthew hurricane that impact, where they demonstrated that they were well intended intended to lead a national coordination of the response. They had support. The UN community stood by them in that regard in terms of demonstrating their leadership, and I think they're even better off now than then. It is clearly evident in terms of how they've been able to gather information, deploy what resources they have, and to report on the status of the situation here on the ground.
And the SEDIMA head gave an update on the latest efforts to assist Haiti recover from the earthquake.
We've now concluded pretty much the search and rescue operation and are shifting focus to now look at support, relief support for those who have been displaced, having lost their homes, or either having homes damaged and uncertain of the status of it to be re-inhabited at the moment. So that's where they are. They are continuing with coordination meetings with those NGOs and international actors that are already a part of the Haitian environment supporting Haiti operations on an ongoing basis.
In Trinidad and Tobago, the Oil Workers Trade Union has hailed the court's decision as a victory for the over 5,000 workers who stand to lose their jobs if Petrochin closes by the end of next month as planned. However, President General Ansel Roger accused Petrochin and the government of acting illegally. The details in this report.
The jobs of workers cannot be terminated, at least until the industrial relations matter between the union and state-owned Petrochin is completed. That matter is set to begin on October 30th at 9:30 a.m. And according to President of the Court, Deborah Thomas Felix, it can be expected to be finalized by November 5th, which is before Petrochin's proposed closure date of November 30th. Speaking outside the court following the conclusion of the matter, which began at 3 and ended at around 5 p.m., OWTU President General Ansel Roger said the union's confidence has been boosted even more.
The industrial court would have delivered justice for the workers and for our judicial system. They are breaking the law. I want to make that point clearly. The government, the cabinet, the board, they are all breaking the law. And there can be absolutely no justification anywhere for breaking the law.
Referring to claims that the company sent out dismissal letters over the weekend, Roger accused the government of using scare tactics to intimidate workers.
The Guyana Prison Service is making attempts to intensify surveillance of items entering prisons. This following the dismissal of 15 prison officers linked to trafficking-related offences. More in this report.
The Guyana Prison Service has had cause to write to the Ministry of Public Service recommending the dismissal of some 15 prison officers so far for this year. The dismissals are all linked to trafficking-related offences. Within recent months, a number of contraband and prohibited items were discovered in the prisons, while some officers have been caught in the act.
There are some instances whereby persons can be charged departmentally. It is based on what they are found with. The Prison Act gives provision for that. There are also some matters that we will refer to the police for them to be charged criminally. This would be, for example, someone who is caught in possession of narcotics. We do not deal with those matters internally. However, recently we've had the discovery of rum. Those persons have been tried departmentally. The matters were adjudicated and their dismissal has been recommended. So I've since prepared the dismissal recommended report, which has been forwarded to the ministry this morning for them to consider the validity of the submission for consideration.
Director of Prisons Gladwin Samuels. Going back to the fact that some 15 officers have found themselves on the firing line, the Director of Prisons says any number is alarming.
If you compare it to the 2 years, the figure should be, it is almost on par.
These people, these officers are obviously paid, they're given a salary. Do you think by increasing their salaries would deter them from engaging in such acts?
You know, there's a saying, the more you get, the more you want. I am of the view that there is a need for persons to be better compensated, and I believe that it can result to persons being less involved in criminal activities.
And we take another break. International stories are up next.
I am Steve Shaw, Manager Communication and Customer Services at the National Works Agency. You are watching JNN, news worth watching every time.
Violence against women and girls is a human problem, not just a woman's problem. It's a problem for men too. Gender violence takes many forms, including sexual assault, domestic violence, relationship abuse, sexual harassment, and sexual abuse of children. The magnitude of ongoing violence against women and children in our country is cause for alarm. We can end the violence. It requires all of us to end the violence. I call on all our men and women in Jamaica to take a stand. And men, especially, must get involved in this movement to create a better world for their daughters, their mothers, their sisters, their aunts, their uncles, their fathers, their sons, and for themselves. Let's protect and reassure. Let's unite to end gender violence.
RJR 94 FM celebrates 68 years, one station, a host of dynamic personalities, consistently credible news and sports, and a variety of the most engaging programs. RJR, in service to Jamaica and the world. 68 and still sounding great. Congratulations to the Big 94. Passion, people, personality.
Welcome back to Frontline News. Now on to the international scene. U.S. President Donald Trump announced on Tuesday that U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, Nikki Haley, has resigned and will leave her post by the end of the year. The CNN has the details.
But reports that Nikki Haley, of course, the U.S. Ambassador to the UN, has resigned and that the president has accepted her resignation, this being reported by Axios. First, and we're waiting for a response from the White House now.
Again, Nikki Haley, the U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, has resigned. We're getting our reporters up on this. Look, this is someone who was highly critical of the president during the campaign. But then when she took this post, she has been an ardent defender of the president, so much so that just last month, after that anonymous opinion piece was written about the president in the New York Times, she wrote a separate opinion piece in the Washington Post lambasting them and saying, look, when I disagree with the president, I take it directly to the president. She wrote then, I don't agree with the president on everything. When there is a disagreement, there is a right way and a wrong way to address it. We don't know what it is that led to her resignation. Was it a disagreement? Was it something personal? Was it serving for 2 years and that being enough time? We don't know, but again, it's a huge development.
Michelle Kaczynski, we understand you're getting more reaction from foreign diplomats.
Right, just surprise. More people shocked that the timing was now, saying they didn't see this coming. People who had spoken to her not long ago, I feel like we've heard that time and time again this morning. The people who spoke to her only recently at the UN General Assembly, and were surprised by this timing, even though they felt like the fact that she is a politician, and many felt that she had political ambitions beyond this, which she has denied. You know, they felt like at some point this would come, not necessarily right now today. However, she just got past the UN General Assembly.
Former First Lady of the United States and politician Hillary Clinton said on Tuesday that U.S. President Donald Trump staged a political rally at Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh's ceremonial swearing, which she said, quote, further undermined the image and integrity of the court, end quote. We go to the CNN for the details.
Hillary Clinton spoke exclusively to our Christiane Amanpour, addressing the ceremonial swearing-in of Brett Kavanaugh at the White House last night. Listen to this.
What was done last night in the White House was a political rally. It further undermined the image and integrity of the court. And that troubles me greatly. It saddens me because our judicial system has been viewed as one of the main pillars of our constitutional government. So I don't know how people are going to react to it. I think given our divides, it will pretty much fall predictably between those who are for and those who are against. But the president's been true to form. He has insulted, attacked, demeaned women throughout the campaign, really for many years leading up to the campaign, and he's continued to do that inside the White House.
All right, joining us now to talk about this and so much more, we have David Gregory, a CNN political analyst, of course, Jeffrey Toobin, CNN chief legal analyst.
Of course.
Of course, and former federal prosecutor, duh. And CNN White House correspondent Abby Phillip. No introduction necessary for Abby. Okay, so, Jeffrey, is Hillary Clinton right that what we saw last night, that President Trump, of course, turned political and went, you know, into full insult mode against Democrats, does it undermine the Supreme Court?
Well, you know, I think the Supreme Court has a reputation for being less political than it always has been. You know, if you go through all of American history, it has always been at the fulcrum of American politics. There has been an effort over many years to try to insulate the court, and it is different. They don't run for office the way other politicians do, or the way politicians do. But this is, but Hillary Clinton is right that he treated this as another way to appeal to his base. I mean, this remarkable national apology to Brett Kavanaugh was really something deeply astonishing.
According to the National Hurricane Center, Hurricane Michael has strengthened into a Category 3 storm. The Category 3 storm is packing winds of more than 120 miles per hour and may grow even fiercer before it makes landfall on Wednesday, likely near Panama City Beach. More from the CNN.
Tonight, after brushing past Cuba with heavy rains and strong winds, a strengthening Hurricane Michael is now plowing toward Florida. The Panhandle is bracing for impact.
Hurricane Michael is a massive storm that could bring total devastation to parts of our state.
Water along coastal inlets and roadways is already rising. Last-minute preparations, sandbagging doorways, boarding up buildings, clearing the beaches, gassing up cars, and buying up supplies.
We opened at 6. By 6:15, we sold out of every generator we had.
This couple even moved up their wedding by a day, not waiting until tomorrow to tie the knot.
We bumped it up to Tuesday night, sunset, and then we bumped it up to this morning.
More than 20 million people are under a hurricane or tropical storm watch or warning across 5 states. Authorities declaring coastal evacuations, preparing shelters, and asking residents in harm's way to get ready.
You've got to take care of yourself. 3 days of food, 3 days of water, have your medicine, know your evacuation route. Make sure you have fuel in the gas tanks.
On the Mid-Bay Bridge, leaving the Gulf Coast at Destin, outbound traffic is slow but steady. Destin's mayor says his biggest concern is storm surge.
What's the biggest mistake people make?
The biggest mistake is what the police department, the fire department hates the most, is people going out during a storm. You know, they want to be sightseers. That curiosity makes people make bad decisions.
And it's time for a break. We'll have Frontline Sports when we return.
Join JNN's Insight on Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Insight, a deeper look at the story behind the story. Insight, your reality check on what matters most. That's Wednesdays at 10 a.m. on JNN for your Insight. JNN, news worth watching.
Several persons gathered around an unconscious woman.
He executed a search warrant for firearms.
News Rewind.
Welcome back to Frontline News. It's time for Frontline Sports. I'm Rashid Masters.
Vice President of the Intersecondary Sports Association, ISA, Keith Wellington, says government officials do not have the legal authority to dictate to the association, which was formed and is run by high school principals. His comments come on the heels of Minister of Sports Olivia Grange stating that she also opposes ISA's rule, which requires student athletes to have averages of 45% and higher in order to participate in any of ISA's competitions. Mr. Wellington says, quote, "Neither the Minister of Sport nor Education has the legal authority to dictate the rules of ISA because we are an organization set up independently of any government agencies. In addition to that, membership to the association is based on invitation," end quote. Mr. Wellington noted that when they are accepted, an application fee is paid and they are then expected to abide by the rules of the organization. There have been numerous calls by major players in the local sporting fraternity, including the media, for ISA to change the mentioned rule, as it is believed by these parties to discriminate against student athletes who do not excel in academics. St. George's College again had to settle for a share of the points with last year's finalists, St. Andrew Technical, at their school grounds in the ISA Digicel Manning Cup competition on Monday. It was Stats who took the lead just 5 minutes from time through Giovanni Johnson, who managed to slot home despite losing his boot. But Stats couldn't hold off the Light Blues, who earned a share of the points thanks to an 88th minute strike from Raheem Williams.
I mean, we want to maintain our 100% unbeaten record. I mean, going forward, this is a good put us amongst the ranked seed going in the second round.
Well, basically, based on the run of play, I think getting a point from the game is a good result. But going ahead so deep in the game, I think we should have done more on the defensive side to hold on to that advantage and also the 3 points.
Meanwhile, fans were sent running following the match between Excelsior and Haile Selassie, which Excelsior won 1-0 after explosions were heard after the final whistle.
Well, I mean, today's game conditions, I mean, the playing surface is not that well for football playing, you know, at this level. Somehow our guys took long to adjust to it. I mean, Haile Selassie High School is used to the surface, so they were playing and they have hopes of going through, so they were pushing hard. But the reality is that we are quality and we tried our best to adjust in the second half, and we did that. And somehow we got the goal and then took it from there, and we give thanks.
A veteran jockey Vasson Niger is dead. He died on Monday following injuries he sustained on Wednesday, September 26, when he was struck by getaway horse Perfect Asset prior to the start of the 7th event at Caymanas Park. Niger suffered extensive head injuries while trying to corral the 5-year-old mare, who had bolted from the starting gate and ran onto a narrow walkway leading from the grandstand area to the winner's enclosure. He was rushed to the Spanish Town Hospital and afterwards transferred to the Kingston Public Hospital, where the severity of his injuries delayed his surgery. Supreme Ventures Racing and Entertainment Limited, the local promoters of horse racing, has expressed condolences to Niger's family. In a statement, SVREL CEO Major Hugh Blake said the company is very saddened to hear of Niger's passing. Blake noted that the veteran jockey was a very popular and well-loved horseman who gave a great deal to the sport. His sentiments were echoed by SVREL chairman Michael Bernard, who expressed sadness at the news, which he said is sure to be felt across the industry. Plans are in the pipeline to help para-athletes and special athletes with badminton. This as the country develops the sport across the island. That declaration from General Secretary of the Jamaica Badminton Association, Antonio Bell. He says the plans are part of the association's push to help improve the nation's Paralympians and Special Olympians.
We have forged an alliance, and I don't really want to talk too much about it because there's something else we'll be speaking on with the Paralympic Association and also the Special Olympics, and those will be specifically geared towards how badminton can assist in developing badminton in those sports, which is para badminton, and for badminton and Special Olympics. So you can listen out for that. That will be pretty soon.
In the meantime, he pointed out that the association is now geared towards having athletes qualify for the 2020 Olympics and beyond.
We have our kids back now from China. They spent 2 months there. We now have to solidify their program of development going forward, because that is a 3-year program.
and we also are putting them in training for qualification in subsequent Olympics to 2020. I don't think they will have enough time, and they have the goods there. The young players that we are seeing there, they have the goods, and the goods that can be developed. So that is our next. So we're trying to get a little bridging the gaps. You understand? We don't want to just have a one or two player that is excelling. We want groups of players excelling.
England have brought Leicester defender Ben Chilwell into the squad for the Nations League doubleheader after Luke Shaw withdrew due to injury. Fox's left-back Chilwell, 21, made his England debut as a substitute against Switzerland on September 11. Chilwell made his Leicester debut in October 2015 and after a loan spell at Huddersfield in 2015-16 has established himself as a regular left-back at King Power Stadium. On Sunday, uncapped Brighton defender Lewis Dunk, 26, was drafted in after an injury to Burnley's James Tarkowski. England face their World Cup semi-final opponents, Croatia away behind closed doors on Friday and Spain on Monday. Former Australian leg spin bowler Shane Warne says he is worried about the future of Test cricket and has called for Duke balls to be used worldwide. Majority of countries use Kookaburra balls manufactured in Australia during international Test cricket matches. Meanwhile, they use SG balls in India. Warne believes the use of the English-manufactured Duke ball led to a great Test series between England and India during the summer and has suggested it be introduced worldwide. He said, quote, "If we could use that Duke ball all over the world, it would be fantastic because it always seems to do something when the wickets are flat, so hopefully the governing body will have a look at that," end quote. And Novak Djokovic began his charge for fourth Shanghai Masters title with a 6-3, 7-5 victory against Jeremy Chardy to reach the last 16. The 31-year-old, in contention to finish as the world number one, continued his dominance against the Frenchman with another straight sets win in their 12th encounter. Djokovic, playing his first competitive event since his US Open success, didn't face a single break point on serve as he booked a meeting with Marco Cincinnato or Yun Chung. And with that, we wrap up Frontline Sports for this evening. I'm Shane Masters. Pleasant viewing.
Live. Days, weeks, months, and years. It's never too late. It's all in one spot.
Hey folks, good morning and welcome.
In food, drop in iFood, make you see
Champion College.
Yes. Live streaming from all brands, thousands of hours of video on demand. Discover the island's best by downloading the app or typing onespotmedia.com.
The Frontline News is now time for Frontline Weather. Good evening. I'm Sasha Lee Hamilton with your weather report and forecast supplied by the Met Service. There is a tropical wave east of Jamaica. The tropical wave is expected to move across the island tomorrow. Thereafter, an induced trough is expected to remain across the island through to the weekend. Tonight will become fair. Wednesday morning will be partly cloudy across eastern parishes and mainly sunny elsewhere. But expect showers and thunderstorms across sections of most parishes on Wednesday afternoon. That was your weather report and forecast supplied by the Met Service. Thanks for watching. Thanks, Sasha Lee. And before we go, here's a recap of the top stories. JPS workers expected to return to work following 2-day sick-out. Justice Minister announces significant reduction in the disposal rates of court cases. possible economic fallout for Jamaica due to climate changes. 1 out of every 21 Jamaican women will get breast cancer. Only 10% have done tests to know their status. Sugar is not the real problem for diabetics. The real problem is fat, and Health Ministry administering HPV vaccine to more girls. In business, concession agreement to be signed for the operations of the Norman Manley International Airport. In the region, Trinidad Oil Workers Trade Union hails the court's decision as a victory for the workers who stand to lose their jobs at Petrochin. And further overseas, U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Nikki Haley resigns. And that's it for Frontline News. Remember, you can watch our live stream at onespotmedia.com. On behalf of our editorial and production teams, I'm Abigail Smythe, wishing you pleasant viewing.